Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 50 of Wise Wednesdays with RK. My name is Ruqayya Khan. Welcome to the platform, wherever you're watching us from, YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for joining us. In conversation today, we have lovely Ranganath. She has behind her 20 years plus of experience as a nutritionist. She's worked in different areas of hospitality, being a dietitian, bringing the right food to the table, literally across different places. And she is a good food guru. She is a mind-body transformationalist. And she is somebody I have known since a long time ago. I am super excited to be once again interviewing her after a big gap. And I love the little battle that she is in right now to put things into perspective, because there is so much of nutri-nonsense, as she says it. There's lots of nutri-nonsense that's going around, and this wonderful, amazing soul is on a mission to set things right. So without further ado, I bring to you Lovely.
Hey, hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, Rukia. So good to see you and so good to chat with you after a
Thank
long
you.
time.
Yes, it's been such a long time. I remember, I think it was more than 10 years ago that I did up my first interview with you for
Correct.
Tabloid Gulf News.
Yes, yes.
It's crazy, time flies. And the thing about you is that you've always been consistent with your message. You've always been a no-nonsense person, someone who doesn't give airy-fairy, hacks or things where, you have to go out of your way. It's always things at home, beautiful stuff, and to the point. So thank you for being that person always and very consistently. And once again, I welcome everybody to the conversation. Hi, Vidya. Vidya's watching us all the way from
Hey,
Bangalore.
Rukia.
Somebody, yes, and I think she also knows you. So someone who's watching us all the way from there, guys, who you're tuning in, please put in your name and let us know where you're watching from. If you're new to the platform, do subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also hit a like for the host. Give the host a bit of an encouragement.
Yeah,
And
I mean, she's doing such an amazing thing. Bring it on.
yeah. So without getting further into this conversation, I would like to share a tiny little video with the new viewers, so that they know what Wise Wednesdays is all about, right? So just a quick little video, and then we jump into the conversation, and by then more people will join us. How does that sound?
Perfect.
All right, let's do this then. Wise Wednesdays started on April 1st with a humble episode on forgiveness. Between then and now, we've had heart-led conversations on happiness, stress management, relationships, resilience, public speaking, respecting boundaries, self-discovery, mindset, just being, listening, reclaiming your life, intuition, and even food. I would like to thank all my listeners and the guests who gave me their time and trust. It is because of you that we kept going. It is because of you that we kept growing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for saying yes for this conversation, Lovely. It's really nice to
It's
have
my
you on
pleasure.
board.
It's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure almost.
Thank you. So the topic for our conversation today is talking Nutrisense, and I literally picked that from what you talk about nutri-nonsense. So what does Nutrisense mean to you?
Okay, so I want to have a little correction to what you told about me. You said I've
Oops,
always
sorry.
been, it's okay, girl. It's like
Yep.
it's an internal journey because uh, I am who I am right now simply because of the previous experiences. And, as much as I'm educated, like I'm experienced, I'm qualified, in terms of even education, unlike everybody else, I've got a master's. I'm talking about the general public. Not everybody does a BS or MS in, food science and nutrition. So when you're coming from that kind of a background, you would expect that I would know it all, you know and you'd
Yeah.
come out into the real world because that's all theory there. You're learning from the books, and it's all about different diet plans and when somebody has a diabetes, what to do, renal failure. It's all very hospital based clinical studies. But once you're out in the real world, you're dealing with real humans.
Hmm.
And suddenly you're like, okay, whatever I studied in college is just a little bit, that's not the whole picture. And over the years, I would say, like when I started off, all I needed was my credentials
Mm-hmm.
and my experience to make anybody say, okay, she's the guru. Like she knows
Hmm.
what she's talking because she's qualified and
Yeah.
she's associated with good hospitals. But over the past few years, it's not like that. I feel as even with all my qualifications and experience, I am actually just another person who's struggling to get the message across because I have to deal with social media now.
Hmm.
You know,
Tell me about
it
it.
could very well be that friend who lost 15 kilos of weight, hook or crook. We have no idea how they would have lost that weight. But the transformational pictures that is showcased, the green smoothies, the green juices early morning. So I'm actually having to deal with people who've lost weight being, the ones who are giving information out. I have to deal with celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Ayushmann Khurrana, we know him. He's a brilliant actor.
Yes.
But the other day, there was a video of him telling people on a public platform that you shouldn't be having protein shakes because it will stay in your system, in your stomach for 3 years. And I'm like, So the guy does have no idea about the digestive system, but he's Ayushmann Khurrana. So the public is definitely going to trust him because of these principles called as the halo effect and they think he's because he's good at what he does as an actor, he's also intelligent to talk about subjects which he has no clue about.
Yeah,
You know
and I think people there's this assumption that with celebrities they're always backed with people who are experts. So it
exactly.
could be that they have this army of people because if you look at transformations that are showed, especially in the industry, you see people suddenly transforming from being this really huge person to suddenly a shrinked down, rippled,
Correct.
person for the end of the movie, or the start of the movie, and I won't take any names, but
Yeah,
and then you have trainers who are doing this for them, you have experts.
exactly.
So them speaking is different from the actor who is probably just following instructions, but yeah, causing damage for the others who are
Exactly.
watching them. So yes.
So that's, I think when I talk about nutri-nonsense or nutri-sense, we need to talk about the nonsense that's going on. Because one of the things the public has to deal, including me, where I need to, because if I have to tell the people this is not right, I need to be on the guard on what's happening. And what I've seen is, so the celebrities, the people who've lost weight, who've got success stories to share, they'll start an Instagram page, they have a Facebook page, and they've got 5,000 people. I mean, we are living in an era where even an egg has followers. And the last I checked, it had 5.4 million followers.
Seriously? Okay, which one
I'm
are you
not joking. I really went
really?
and checked it. My son follows the egg, and I'm like, so and you're like, what is going on? Like, and here you're trying to educate people with posts which are really useful, putting things in perspective, and every 3 days you might get one follower simply because,
Yeah,
not complaining about it, because the whole dynamics of how things work on social media is completely different,
I
to
do
get
agree.
the traffic flow there. So obviously people are going, oh, how many followers do they have, or how many
Yeah.
followers does she have? That's one of the criteria to be, performing well. I think in all of this, what happens is we somewhere get lost, people, we get lost on our why.
Hmm.
Why? I think the minute, for me as well, it was a journey because, of course, I live in the real world. My master's degree is there, it's a book, it's a certificate. But in the real world, it doesn't really give me protection on how I think or, how I perceive things or how I would use what I'm hearing from people, to my own life.
Yep.
And I have gone through this journey where I remember I had my elder one, and within that year of having him being a working mom, now when I look back, I'm like, why did I do all that? I remember after work going to this gym, which was the other way around where I live. I would drive down there and I would reach home late and feel guilty because I was late, you
Hmm.
know. So I never enjoyed that workout because I was thinking about the kid being at home. You know, that whole are you selfish? I didn't think that I needed to, at that point, it was about are you being selfish or you're, you know. But now when I look back, I think I just needed someone to tell me, girl, you can take your kid for a walk, you can walk in your house. Y- You know, you just need to do, because that whole thing about, oh, you're a dietitian, you need to be a certain, you know,
Ah,
it
yes,
overtakes
I
that
know.
whole. So I've gone there, I've been that, I've done that, and I can see what people are struggling with,
Hmm.
you know, because the expectations we all have from childhood, we have, I mean, I've been told 100 times, oh, you didn't get your dad's skin color. You know, it's all casual statements, no one's really thinking twice before saying that, you know, whatever mindset they're in. But all of these translates into what you watch on social media. You know, you're complimented when you lose weight, as if that's, you know, again, it's all done in good sense, but somewhere we place so much importance on this. It's amazing that I'm not talking anything about food and I'm talking about a lot of other things.
No,
But,
but
you know,
but that's
that's
the
where
whole.
all of this comes in.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that's the whole point of this conversation, right? Nutrisense. We're talking about making sensible choices. Where, again, nutrition is not just about food, it's also about content that you're consuming. And I'm forever harping on this, that it's not
exactly.
just, it's when you say nutrition, nutrition is beyond food on your plate. It is everything that you're consuming, whether it is content on social media, whether it is the books you're reading, whether it's the fragrances you're taking in, the
Exactly.
fresh air. What are you doing and what choices are you making? It's also important. So it doesn't
True.
matter if we're not speaking about food. People are welcome to ask us questions and we can go
Yes,
there.
please.
And right now, I think what you said about social media and about how people are judged based on how many followers, I would know, because I've got what I've been doing 1,051 daily videos, and still, yes, an occasional subscribe, an occasional like, but that's not important to me because
It's
my message is important.
exactly.
And pretty much how I see what you do, because I love the stories, the little instructions that you put in, the way you touch people by saying, for instance, the last I saw was about peanuts that you were sharing, and then
Oh, yeah, yeah.
somebody comes up and says they get headaches because of peanuts, and then you explained why. So those little nuances and sharing that makes a difference to people is what makes a difference at the end of the day, I think. And
Exactly.
it has to be real.
True. So I think that's the whole. I think what I want to tell people, the first point would be understand your why. Because if
Yeah,
you understand why you are going to, you know, so the minute you know your why, I think that'll be so amazing.
it
And
is
that takes a
definitely
bit of
important.
digging into your brain.
And when you say digging into your brain, what do you mean by that?
Looking into who
How
you are.
how can you identify your why? Help us get to the bottom of the why. How do you do that?
Am I
Oops.
disappeared? Okay. The
Okay,
first
you're
thing
back.
would be to understand who you are. Like for
Okay,
me, yes, I'm a nutritionist, but that's not all of me, you
right.
know. I also am, and neither am I Shilpa Shetty, for example. I'm not an actress. That's not, you know, who I am. That's not my lifestyle, or that's
Yep.
not my bread and butter. So for me, my energy levels from my nutrition would be, my whys would be, I need to wake up at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning because I need to, you know, get breakfast done for everybody. I've got 2 kids at home. I've got a husband who leaves for work. Pack his breakfast, pack the lunch, serve them that, get ready, leave for work, have the brain power and the energy to be active at work. You know, so the minute I understand who I am and where I stand in terms of what my needs are, I end up meeting clients up to 10 to 15 clients in a day when I
Hmm.
was working. So I need to give them that energy. And I cannot do that if I'm undernourished. You know, I am suffering from lack of sleep. But having the same thing is for everybody. And I've seen in my own case and with everybody, we go through different phases in life. So you
Right.
will not be the same person throughout from start to end. If you
Mm-hmm.
are a 20-year-old, I've had many clients in their 30s come and tell me, I was a basketball player in my 20s in college. But yeah, I mean, dude, get over it. Right
Yeah, I
now,
know.
it's not happening. you know? So they live in
It's like
that and like,
it's like
snap
say
out of
it as it is. Snap out of it. That's it. I love this. You know what?
snap out of it. Now you're in your 35, you've got a kid, you've got a office job that requires you to be sitting, you've got a crazy boss who gives you deadlines when you're about to leave for work,
Yeah,
etc. Yeah,
yeah,
your so then we have this whole story about, oh, my metabolism has slowed down. No, none of our metabolism slows down technically. Yes, to a small degree, but
okay.
our lifestyle completely changes from our 20s to our 30s to our
Hmm.
50s. If you think about it,
Yeah,
in my 20s or anybody's 20s, we'd be walking to college. I remember, and I studied in my degree, and I had to walk from a certain point to reach the college, get into the bus. There's a lot of activity, and there was
right.
not much care about what we ate. But
Correct.
shift to my early 30s, maybe I found myself to be a mom. I've gone through that whole 9 month of progression in my whole body. I'm
Right.
also working. I have a sitting job. I might just walk a bit. So see, from where I was very active in my 20s to my 30s, things have shifted. Life has got a lot more harder,
Hmm.
you know so and when you're in your 40s, you might be, let's say if it's a career person, they might be really doing well in their life. When you start as a junior, you still move around a lot more,
Yeah.
but when the minute you become a manager, your movement gets a little lower. You're just bossing around people.
I never ever, I mean, like, I never thought about this. Honestly, the connection that you've just showed about movement and metabolism and age is is there. It's so evident, but really never thought about it because for me it was like, yeah, they always say with age the metabolism goes down. That for me was default setting, which is why when you said this, I was like, huh, what is she talking about? But yeah, you're so right.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I remember after I had the kids, I've seen my husband do it. I've done it. I know everybody does it. We'd sit there and say, hey, can you get that? We tell the children to do it. Come on, we're all guilty of it.
Yes, yes.
you know?
So lovely. When while you were talking about how to plan and you understand your why, one thing that really stood out for me was brain power. When you said brain power, to have the right amount
Yeah.
of brain power, we're often looking at energy levels. We're also always looking at energy levels in terms of getting work done, feeling, fresh through the day. But when you look at brain power, and thinking consumes a lot of energy, it requires
Exactly.
a lot of energy. So tell us a little bit more on brain power and what people can do to kind of boost it up so that they are carried through the day without feeling totally drained and exhausted.
Okay. So here, okay, I'm just going to shift a little bit of the conversation.
Sure.
Now, when we talk about anything, like just the words that you use now, the boosting the brain power, there's, that itself is it's a word that has been marketed heavily, boost
Mm-hmm.
your immunity, boost your brain power. We cannot really boost anything per se through food by itself. Because
Okay.
I'll tell you why I say this, because over my years of interacting with people, uh, I've seen people living off just coffee, coke, and having amazing intellectual skills.
Hmm. Okay.
They really come up with amazing ideas on the board meetings. Like they are the ones who run the show. Okay. And I have, so this is not to tell you that food has no role in brain capacity or in the immunity. But these are all, food importantly has a role, but it is a small part of everything. Because
Hmm.
genetics plays, as a human being, it's not just about uh, food alone, but
Right.
food is a controllable factor for us. So that's where we emphasize on, doing things which you can control, which is food,
Hmm.
movement,
Right.
less stress, you know, Um, because you can have somebody who eats well, who's really good at everything, goes to work out in the morning, eats well, but maybe needs a few sessions on temper management,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and they can flare up there. So is that mind body brain connection somewhere not happening? So I think, just to answer your specific question about what can we do in terms of the controlling factors, which is eating well,
Yep.
anything you take in life, whether it is the gut health, it's the brain health. We like to talk in parts of bodies, like, what do we eat for the brain? What do we eat for the gut? What do we eat for the skin? What do we eat for the hair? But let me tell you an amazing secret. It's not a package, like,
Delivered.
I, exactly. It has to be a whole thing. And so we say always there's good foods, there's good diets and bad diets. There are no good foods and bad foods. So we'll have people telling, okay, which fruit is the best fruit? All the fruits are equally good because there are some nutrients in mango which cannot be given by berries.
Right.
You may not
Yeah.
find it in strawberry, the same nutrient. But having said that, the minute I make a statement saying all the berries are great for you, maybe the person listening to me cannot afford the berries.
Hmm.
They're quite pricey, especially in, where they're not from. So what I'm trying to say is the foods you choose, we know it's all more plant based. You have to make sure because they are the best ones. Like if I had to show you, can I just show the plate?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I hope you guys can see it. Okay,
It's
so
yeah.
this is like a plate where I've kind of show you the division.
Mm-hmm.
So this part here, the big part, that should be 50% of your plate. That's where the vegetables and the plants come in.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you have the other side, 25%, where your proteins come in. And then you have I'm sorry, I'm like a bit
No,
reversed
no,
up here.
it's not
Yeah,
you. It's the platform.
it's
Yes.
yeah. So this part is where the carbohydrates come.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what you fill in here in terms of what are the vegetables you're going to eat, what are the proteins you're going to eat, what are the carbohydrates you're going to eat, it's totally dependent on where you live. What's your social, what's your economic status? There's no magic single food. That's my point. Because
Hmm.
now with the immunity boosting thing, you have turmeric. You know,
Yep.
people talk a lot about turmeric, but I'm like, I wouldn't sit and eat a whole bowl of turmeric, but it's something which I would add into my food.
Yep.
But that's a small little thing. But see how much of traction it has got. Ginger. I'm not going to sit and have ginger the whole day. When you talk about individual foods, you're diluting the overall big picture. That's my point.
Ah.
The same applies to brain food. Yes, I can tell you omega 3, oily fish is great for the brain, nuts are great for the brain. Now the minute I say oily fish, people start associating with the salmon, and they say,
Right.
oh, salmon. But I'm like, no, even your sardines, your mackerels, which are way low, not that costly, or maybe you don't even need to buy those. Avocados are great for the brain. But then I was just reading somebody's post from India saying they're so happy they found avocados where they live, but it costs 500 rupees per kilo.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yes, go ahead and do it. I'm not telling you again that you are amazingly privileged if you can do it. If your spending capacity is not a challenge and you are able to buy the best of foods, you're privileged, you
Yep.
know, and that's amazing because you get the best of things. But making a story out of only a few foods is
Hmm.
where things get blurred for the rest of the population, especially now when we are going through the situation of economic turmoil all over the world,
Correct.
layoffs, and we know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And there you are like, should I be buying that avocado for five? Because now I can't afford those avocados,
Right.
for 500 rupees. What else can I? Then suddenly people start thinking, oh, what else can I use? So we have ghee is there. It's a fatty fruit. The same nutrients can be got from other foods.
Right.
So if you live in a remote, it's like talking about milk. Which milk is the best milk? Really depends on who you are and what you can have. If you are lactose intolerant, cow milk is a no-no.
Hmm.
But would I tell everybody needs to go dairy free? I wouldn't.
Yep. I would
You
not.
know, if you're a vegan by choice, then perhaps almond milk is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you cannot afford the almond milk, do you have to take almond milk? Not required. There are other foods you can compromise, put into your diet.
Right.
So I think this is the narrative that has blurred things, really messed up everything for people, because we've come to this conversation where I think it's just a handful of food that everybody talks about.
Hmm.
you know
Right. So
yeah.
now, because you're on a mission to change the conversation, what kind of a conversation would you like to have instead?
For me, I want people to understand that it's their diet in totality. There is no need to demonize foods. There is
Hmm.
no need to glorify foods.
Hmm.
Take a step back. You know, all the foods can have a place in your life. Because if I'm a new mom, for me during that phase of handling the baby and taking care of everything, maybe batch cooked, pre-cooked meals. I cook large bulk meals. I put them, I portion them and put them in the freezer. That is what is going to be my food at that time. It's
Hmm.
not going to be making it lesser. If you're the kind of person that, okay, I know a lot of friends and colleagues and everybody who'd buy fresh vegetables, buy it with good intentions, but actually not end up making it. It just go rotten in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those crying pomegranates. They say,
Of
can
course.
you do something with us? My point is frozen vegetables, why don't, but then what happens is they don't cook it, they don't make it, and they just thrown away.
Yep.
So my narrative would be why don't you look at frozen vegetables? They're equally good as your fresh vegetables because over the years, the production has improved. The freezing
Yeah.
situations, and
Yeah.
the factories have improved their functionalities. Why don't you look at frozen vegetables? Because they're going to stay in the freezer. You're going to save a lot of money. You're not going to throw away things, and it's easily accessible for you. Because with good intentions, you bought the vegetables, but what stops you from doing it? Perhaps time.
Yep.
You're not able to clean it, cut it, chop it, and cook it. But frozen vegetables takes away 3 4 initial steps away. So all you need to do is open a bag, cook it, and you still eat your vegetables. So my point is, when I help my clients, and my narrative is to look at your habits. I think most people do know what's good. What are the better food options and what are the not so better good food options? But I think where they get lost is in this whole stories that are being told about which fruit is the best, rather
Hmm.
than, okay, I know fruits are good for me. How do I ensure that I am getting enough intake? You know,
Hmm.
I know vegetables are great for me, but how do I make sure I'm getting enough vegetables? Just to
Hmm.
tell you an example, recently I was had a client. What I noticed about with them is I gave them consultation, I gave them all the recommendations, but they were struggling because their lifestyle required them to be out and about.
Mm-hmm.
So home cooked meals were not the option for them. They ended up eating from restaurants a lot.
Right.
And they were spending quite a bit on those restaurant meals. So I said, and I said, okay, this is not really helping. And she was like, oh, he's not really losing weight. I said, because in restaurants, the meals will have loads of things which we can't really control.
Correct.
Foods are definitely, it's all hidden.
Yep.
There'll be cream added to it, but it might just look, even grilled fish might have, a burst of oil brushed on it.
Yep.
Yeah, unlike what you could do at home.
Correct.
So
So,
what I suggested to them was, think about putting that money you're putting into the restaurants and rethink if you want to get somebody to cook the food for you. Get
hmm.
someone to come home, and perhaps you might end up paying even less.
Hmm. Okay,
So,
there's a question that has come in connection to frozen vegetables, and we've got Vidya who says that that's a great point that you have brilliantly addressed affordability and the place where we live. These days, health is being sold, to put it frankly. Sorry, no offense though, but it is a fact. And she
it
says
is.
she's loving the session, so thank you, Vidya. And an interesting question from Palak, who says, "I thought frozen vegetables had preservatives for long shelf life. Is this true?"
So, Palak, you need to look at, again, when you're looking into the frozen counter, you need to just turn that packet and look at the labels, the food ingredient list. Many a times it's just the vegetable because they're just blanched in, if you know the processing of how it's done, they're just blanched in water, sort of, and then frozen. That's it, blast chilled. But yes, you're right. There could be vegetables again frozen but marinated. So you just need to make a wise choice of picking up the right thing by reading the ingredient list.
Right. I remember going, again, I won't take the name of the brand's name, but I remember going to this huge factory, and that's the only huge factory in the UAE for people who are living here. They might have guessed. I walked in, I did the interview of the CEO there, and I walked into the factory, and they had these huge setups where they were freshly cut, fresh juices. They were at the time known for fresh juices, but also ready to use vegetables. So a huge portion where they were chopping the vegetables for the salad boxes that they have ready
Right.
to use, the sliced onions. And it was literally, as I walked through, it was almost like Charlie's factory, where I could actually, it was almost like I'm walking through the fruit, it was that
Mhm.
fresh and piles of fruit. So I was like, wow, this is almost like Charlie's chocolate factory, only they've got oranges and other fruits and vegetables
Right.
and stuff. So, and huge, again, machines to instant freeze, huge
Right.
machines to process the whole thing, and everybody wearing gloves and
Oh, definitely.
and hair nets and everything. So I that was my first experience, because until then I always thought, you tend to wonder, should you even go for ready stuff, because I don't know how they're touching it, who's touching
Mm,
it, are they washing, you have those things in your mind.
of course.
But having visited that factory definitely gave me a true insight into how the job is done. But obviously, Palak is talking about those bulk buys that you have
True.
available frozen. Thank you for that question. Sorry to interrupt you there. Yep. So, getting somebody else to do your cooking, or again being mindful on your purchases, is definitely a good idea to have. Anything else that you could put
So,
in?
see, this is what I said. Everything is, information is very difficult because what I want people to do is if you're trying to Google, okay, let's say you're trying to lose weight. What do you type? Lose weight, a diet plan to lose weight in 20 days. And the minute you type those kind of things, you're definitely going to land into the space in Google where you are going to be bombed with a lot of people and products which are going to support that goal.
Right.
So your search itself was a wrong step, the kind of thing that you did there. Rather, if you would have typed, you would realize, okay, you know what? I know vegetables are good for me. I need to see I'm not eating enough. You know,
Mm.
I need to look at how can I improve my vegetable intake.
Mm.
The minute you search for those kind of things, you might hopefully land up with the right kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So mine, what I'm trying to say is everybody has a narrative that
Mm.
suits their product. Like right now, what I'm trying to do is over the years, I think my narrative is going to be about empowering people, educating people.
Mm.
Okay, that's why you hear this narrative from me, which
Right.
is actually makes sense. But at some point, I'm definitely going to uh, make this into. I need to get my bread and butter as well. So I'm
Correct.
going to have a narrative where I'm going to. This is what is exactly happening with everybody else. you
Mm.
know so let's take about Ellie Macpherson. She's Australian, supermodel.
Right.
She has her own brand of products. You can take anybody for that matter. It's all business models at the end of the day. You don't superfoods. Turmeric is a superfood, but that's something which we all use every day.
Right.
You know, I don't know, goji berries, words which you've never heard, foods which you've not heard. You don't really need to be part of the business agenda of somebody. That's my point.
Mm.
Okay. Because there's also, as much as information is there, there's also a lot of misinformation.
Mm.
So that's where that one-to-one clients help. Like, remember you told me about the post about peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
When I put that post, I said, oh, it's just another way to eat peanuts.
Yep.
I did not glorify peanuts. And how I did was I soaked the peanuts overnight. So it was like
Yep.
soaked peanut because someone told me that you can actually cook and make a peanut curry. I said, oh,
Right.
great, I'll try that, every time it's roasted peanuts. So I didn't say peanuts are great for you. We all know peanuts are a healthy food. It's from nature,
Correct.
but at the same time, we don't need to push aside foods that are made by the food industry.
Mm.
Like I said, if you're living in a remote place, fresh milk may not be an option. Powdered
Right.
milk could very well work for you,
Mm.
So that whole narrative needs to change. Again, if you feel frozen foods are not your kind of a thing, and you can buy vegetables that are fresh, and you are having the environment where you can cut, chop, cook, and eat them, please do it. You do not need to buy frozen vegetables. But you do not need to tell the story that fresh vegetables are the best.
Mm.
Because there might be somebody at that point listening to you may just stop eating vegetables.
Yeah.
See my point? Like if
Correct.
you say exactly, if you say berries are the best, or if you say include berries, include I don't know, a few other fancy fruits, people say those are the things I can't afford them, so I'd rather not eat them because they already got that narrative. But we are like, why don't you buy local fruits which are
Mm.
seasonally available? Like oranges are in season now, equally great. You go into the supermarket, you'll see two sorts of tomatoes. I think I did a post on that. One was 1 dirham and the other was 7 dirhams. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
7 dirham looked photogenic,
Mm-hmm.
really
Yes. Photogenic.
looked really nice, red, ripe, juicy, shiny, you know. And the other tomato did look a little, sad
Look
looking.
sad looking. This one
Yeah,
looked like it had Botox, but yes.
exactly. Of course, you would think those 7 dirhams are amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
as a nutritionist, let me tell you, if you look at the calories and the nutrient profile of both, they're absolutely very close to each other. For the sake of argument, you can say, oh, these come from this. So their vitamin C is zero point zero 0.00. For the sake of argument, you can argue and say the 7 dirhams is a little better. But in the
Mm-hmm.
big picture, they're both tomatoes. Please buy them because they're part of your vegetable intake.
True. So we've got comments coming in, and I have to acknowledge these. We've got Joe who says Google prioritizes the commercial aspect of health and bombards with products. So you said it right on how to word our search content properly. So yes, he is somebody who's also out to make a difference in the nutrition world. So thank you for
Excellent.
joining us.
Thank you.
And again, he has the same narrative of eating wise and picking what you can from your own kitchen. Making wiser choices and doing things right. So thanks for
Yeah.
joining us. And we've got Gayatri who says, "Well said, lovely. We are bound with misinformation, and we need more sessions like these. Great going." So, guys, keep those questions coming, and I'll keep her hooked for longer today.
No
So,
worries. I can go on and on.
exactly. And we've got Palak who says makes sense, and Joe adds to say I agree to the perspective of making small changes with healthy local food sources rather than exotic food. So as I was saying, he reiterates that
Thank you.
it's all about making the right choices and eating right. Anupama says, great. Somebody's actually telling it's okay to have frozen food if they need. Awesome. We have to stop being too fussy at times. Thank you, Anu. So, lovely. What I'm going to share with you now is I was, again, from an interview I'd done with another chef long time back. And the conversation there was about we had to come up with 20 recipes using tomatoes. You know, our Friday magazine does
Yeah,
this, right?
yeah,
So
yep, yep.
different ways of using tomatoes. And one of the options, finally we got fed up of using chopped tomatoes and puree and everything, and he said
Mm,
tomato paste.
yeah,
And I was like taken aback. It's tomato paste, chef. And he said it's got the same nutritive value. And to quite an extent, you can use it more efficiently when it comes to the color, when it comes to the flavor, because
exactly.
it is so concentrated. So help us understand facts from fads on this,
Oh,
please.
there are loads. Like what he said is true. Again, I think when you say facts from fads, uh, see,
And
there's a
and
narrative.
uh, and sorry, before you get into that, and I'll tell you why I'm telling you this, because when the whole lockdown scenario had happened,
Mm,
right? We were short on vegetables. We were getting very sad vegetables in the market. They
right,
they
right.
really looked miserable. They looked half as miserable as we did. It was depressing to go vegetable shopping, let's put it that way. And every time my heart would ache because it would feel like, okay, my at least in UAE, where you get supplies from all over the world, this is the kind of vegetables I'm getting. So every time I went to get my groceries, I'd be sad because my kids are living in Australia. And I
Yeah.
would be like, what would they be having in terms of food and, vegetable supplies? And I told my daughter, I said, Beta, if you're not able to get a good supply of tomatoes, start using tomato paste. It's
Okay.
perfectly fine. Substitute
Yes,
it.
yes.
So that's where this is
See,
also
that's
coming from.
exactly what you did, right? And that's amazing because we don't need to, like, again, I'm going back to the narrative because cooked tomatoes, like the tomato paste, has higher percentage of lycopene.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I say this and everybody says, oh, that's amazing. But again, you need to come back a step back, take a step back when I said that. And now look at it from that. I'm not going to eat loads of lycopene the whole day.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to just use a little tomato paste for one or two things in the day. But
Yep.
that's part of my diet. I've not taken it out. Okay. So I think we always need to look at that big picture. I'll tell you when you're talking about about nutrition. As part of my master's, I had to work with the choir workers. You know, they're from the lower socioeconomic status, and like this is, I think I mentioned it earlier as well. There is no bad uh, food.
Yep.
Okay, and okay, forget the choir workers. Okay, talk about them. I've seen men in their community who had six abs, and I'm not even kidding. They literally had, they were lean, and when they're working you can actually make those,
Sick pack
all those
abs.
little
Yes.
muscles, and you know what their diet was. Because these were heavy carbohydrate eaters, in the sense of they would have, because back home, tapioca is a huge thing, the root vegetable. So
Yep.
their energy would come from tapioca. They would, once they get their pay, they would go out and have, toddy. That's,
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic drink,
Yep.
and maybe some green chili. And these guys used to do heavy labor, like hard work. And that's their sustenance. Their diet used to be just that. So even this whole high carb, low, and then you see actors who have controlled conditions where they would have dietitians and doing a different set of things and still getting those six abs. So both are now, obviously the actor cannot go and live like the, choir
The
worker
workers.
person,
Yeah.
or the other guy can't come here. But my narrative here is you can achieve results with a multitude of things. And that's the beauty of the human body,
Yeah.
you know, because I would love all of you to look into the blue zones. Uh, Google it
Yes.
out. Yeah. Those are places in the world, all over the world, areas in the world where you would find maximum number of people who celebrating 100, their 100th birthday. And unfortunately, food is just one part of their lifestyle. It's not
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Nutrition is not all of that gives them the benefit of living such long, healthy, happy lives. It
Right.
was, things like sunshine, there was less stress. They were not vegans, though they did have, their diet was heavily onto the plants,
Right.
but not vegans. Okay, so they did have their meat and they did have their, but majority of their meals would be based on plants. Okay, now when I say plants, I don't just mean everybody starts thinking of green lettuce and no.
Mm.
When we're talking about plants, think in a whole perspective of plant. It can include your rice, it's a plant. Your
Mm.
breads, plant, uh, spinach, tomatoes, fruits, root vegetables. They're all plants.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not, people say, in Hindi there's a khas pose. No, it's not that. Are you just going to give me? It's not that. So plants are a whole, but that's the majority, and the rest would just be like exactly what I showed in that plate, the
Yeah.
50% concept of having vegetables. So did I go off traction, Ruke? I'm not sure what you
No,
asked me and where I
it's
landed
it's
up.
it's it's perfectly
Okay,
fine. We also have Joe, who says vitamin D exposure also plays a big role for the
exactly.
laborers,
Yep.
and you didn't go off track. Plants, yes, we were talking about, and to take you slightly back with the six pack abs, I was watching a dance show where,
Hmm.
and I, again, no names, but I'm watching a dance show where they have three generations of dancers,
Okay.
and out of which there were three children who showed up, children like 6 years
Hmm.
old and 7 years old, who showed up and showed off their abs, six
Hmm.
packs at age 6 and age 7, and it is adorable. I mean, he's that tall and his abs are that much, like he's like literally, and he was talking about food and about activity and being active. So obviously a child that age is not going to have those abs because of the crazy exercising they're doing,
Hmm.
but because of the right nutrition, which is so important. So tell us a little bit about making sure that kids get the right nutrition from the onset, building those healthy habits, if we may.
Okay. So again, it goes back to the parents and how the narrative is at home. And I think it starts from shopping,
Mm,
as a mom, as a dad, or whoever is at home to go and do the grocery shopping. I think the story starts there. Relook at your trolley, at your shopping cart. Does it have more plants, you know,
mm,
bit of, chicken, fish, all those things? Because what happens to many household is, again, the narrative will change if the parent is really busy. I don't mind if they have frozen vegetables. I don't mind, but as long as that plant based trolley is there. Because many times what happens is you have to understand heavily processed foods. I'm talking about donuts, I'm talking about chocolates, cake, biscuits. They are not bad per se,
mm.
but they're highly palatable. They are very hyper. What do you say? They're delicious. Let's
Yep.
just put it that. And
Yes.
we humans love them. We just
Hmm.
genetically we love them. We want more of them. So again, why demonize them? Why not reframe your thought process when you go shopping? If I
Hmm.
have children, I wouldn't buy potato chips on offer. Even
Mm,
if I am even if I'm shown that there's a whole pack you can buy and it's going to cost you much less, I
mm.
have that thought process where I know that whole packet is going to finish in a day or two.
Correct.
I mean, why bring it home and create a drama around that, where the mom is hiding it from the children and the kids are all going around in the kitchen, or even the elders, sometimes, oh, chips is there. Suddenly they know the way around the kitchen, you
Yes.
know. So the thing is, when you're going shopping, hyper palatable foods, don't spend your money on that.
Hmm.
You know, don't not if you want to buy it, just get a small pack. So again, you're not. telling your children these are bad, these are good. Because with children, what happens is, this is something I wanted to address. I do not want parents, I mean, I want the parents to understand it's you are the buyers. You
Mm-hmm.
have the right to, you have the responsibility, I should say,
Yep.
to make the right choices while you're shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Once you reach home, it's totally up to the children to decide what they want to eat and how much they want to eat. Because, so let's say you have three kinds of fruits in the house.
Yep.
You have to say, I've got XXX. What do you want? The child decides whether he wants to eat the banana and how many bananas he wants to eat.
Right.
Okay, because the minute that's where I think a lot of battles happen at home. We are so engrossed in forcing our children to drink. Let's say how many times we've seen these children force fed milk in the morning, you know, and yeah, and we've seen them, I'm sorry about this gross word, but they puke in the bus, you know, they vomit it out, they throw up,
Yeah.
and you don't need to do that because, again, back to the thing, it's not your one meal that is going to, it's what the child is, because we've seen that, right? When they're toddlers, when they grow about 3 years, I've heard parents tell me, I don't know what they eat, they just seem to be living on air and water. They suddenly stopped eating. And I'm
Yep.
like, they don't need that much food.
Right.
This is another message I've communicated many times. Even as a small baby, when you're starting feeding the child, the minute the child turns the head away,
Right. They're done. Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Don't don't do that. Okay? Because I'll tell you why. The brain stomach connection is really strong. These are real things. These are really things that are happening.
No, I completely get you because and I'm just being mindful of time, guys. If you want to continue this conversation a little longer than an hour, just give us a yes so that we can carry on because there's so many things I still want to
Oh
ask
yeah.
about you. Um, so okay, when it comes to force feeding, what happens is when you are force feeding a child, that connection, the child's normal connection of understanding whether they're full kind of begins to get negated,
Diluted. Exactly.
and then they don't know when they are full anymore, and which is why you have obese kids who
Exactly.
who have been constantly force fed, and now their brain doesn't know how to register whether they're full. When you're born, that's a natural instinct that you have as someone, that okay, I'm full. The baby knows, but
Correct.
because the mother keeps feeding, then the baby kind of gets confused, starts throwing up, and different things happen, and the whole digestive tract goes for a toss. So it's important, guys, to respect your baby when it's saying, I'm done. So don't over motherly whatever you do. I mean, it's not right. It's just
Yeah.
not right.
I think it's also that narrative at home because I've had many young moms telling me, oh, there's the grandma at home, there's the elders at home, they want chubby babies. It's not easy, but like you said, I think that whole connection just goes off, and then the child ends up eating large quantities, putting on weight. And then your
Finish.
narrative changes to the child. You start saying, oh, you've put on weight, and everybody's, you know,
Yeah,
put,
and how often have you said finish what's on your plate? I mean,
oh,
you're right from the beginning. Mothers tend to. Let's not just blame the mothers. Caretakers, like
everybody, yeah.
caretakers. Sorry, mothers. Caretakers pile up food on the plate, and then you insist that they finish what's on the plate. What if you taught the child to start with small portions? And then understand whether they really need more and then take more, but you're not teaching them those basic things, and then you complain, the kid doesn't know, or they've put on weight, or they need to go for a run, or you deny them chocolates. What if you could just start at the beginning to make wiser choices?
I'd like to add to this. This is where the public comes in picture. Because I remember when we were growing up, we are three of us, my brother was really on the skinnier side, when in his teens. Every time we used to go to India, the narrative from people was, oh my God, where he's not giving him any food or what?
Are you eating his portion of the food?
Yeah, like that's the thing my mom used to hear. Now when I remember, it's like, so obviously the moms are pressurized, or the caretaker is pressurized to feed more because that's the public response.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I guess somewhere that educated, that's why I said, your why, who are you, what do you want? Somewhere that starts off that conversation.
yep. And I think even with women, like the expectation, oh, you just got married. You, if you haven't put on weight, there's this whole cultural thing of, oh, she's probably not happy. I mean,
Mm.
get a life, guys. You don't have to bulk up to show that you're happy. So, anyway, I think we definitely went a different tangent
I
altogether.
know. See, that's the beauty of nutrition. I mean, that's the beauty of talking about this. And that's the narrative that's going on. And that's exactly why there's so much of, like, I was just thinking of a glass of water. I
Yeah,
could be drinking that from a plastic bottle, and I could make people fear that.
yeah.
And that's then you have, something called as drinking from copper vessels.
Mm-hmm.
So you're suddenly giving people more options. Somebody is selling that to you, right? Uh,
Yep.
Again, I'm not going to drink from plastic bottles every time,
Hmm.
but maybe when I'm really thirsty, I go into a supermarket, I see only plastic bottles. That's something which I can pick up, I can drink up. I would rather get that bottle of water because hydration is more important
Yep.
than the fear that has been put into my brain about the plastic.
True.
Unless I made sure I'm very responsible about going the sustainable way, I carry my glass of water or bottle of water which is non-plastic.
True. So we have this. Okay, Palak says we really need to start listening to what we say to our kids and
Oh
others.
yeah.
I do agree. And we have a amazing question from Kunen. He says, "What's your take on nutritional psychiatry?"
Could you explain that a little more? What did you have in mind?
Okay, then, what's
Like,
your take? What do you mean when you're asking about
what
nutritional?
area of that?
Okay. So as he types in his the
Sure.
details of it and a little breakdown on what he's asking, I wanted to ask you a little about this hype or this thing that we have again, conversations around eating as per your blood type.
Oh,
Um,
that's okay. That's a total scam.
I
Sorry.
like I love how you rolled your eyes. Okay, I knew that was coming. So tell me.
That's a total scam. See, I'll tell you something. It's not
Yep.
just the blood type diet, it's also the body type diet, the blood type diet. Uh, there's so many types of diets, right? At
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, all of these diets, any diet, whether it's the keto, whether it's the paleo, whether it's the low carb, high fat diet, whether it's the high protein diet, they're all basically manipulating the macronutrients. Now, what are the
Mm-hmm.
macronutrients? They're carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. These are the nutrients we need in large quantities. Compare it. And when I say large, again, please don't think in kilograms. They're all in grams. That's the other narrative issue. We say eat loads of fruits. And then, this narrative changes about what is loads, or
Hmm.
eat more vegetables. What is more? Because my more could be somebody else's less.
Yep.
you know Anyway, so different types of diet, what they do is they work on manipulating the macronutrient. So
Mm-hmm.
keto diet has more fat,
Yep.
moderate
Yep.
amounts of
Yep.
protein, very low carbohydrate intake. Now let's replicate the same model into any diet you hear. There is always taking out of food groups, there is reduction in certain macronutrients because that's again food. So
Yep.
what happens as a result of all of this is any diet you go on, you are going to be on lower food intake.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's a no brainer, you're definitely going to eat up less.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're going to eat less, you're definitely going to see changes,
Hmm.
whether it is your weight loss, whether it is, anything else. It could even be a blood sugar maintenance. You feel better, your blood pressure is under control. Because even 2 kilos of weight loss can dramatically improve your blood readings.
Hmm.
in case you are diabetic and you have hypertension or whatever. So I think it's important to understand this. Now, which diet you choose, and every diet proponent is going to tell you their diet is the best.
Hmm. Of course.
Okay? And they're definitely going to be cherry picking a lot of research work. Okay.
Right.
And as normal people, we fail to understand, we don't know how to read a research paper.
Right.
Many studies are done on rats, and none of us are rats. We don't, they're the closest, they're the closest that can be done. But these rats are fed large amounts of a certain nutrient in a
Hmm.
lab setting, which
Yeah.
is never going to be replicated to a human body.
Human body. Yeah.
You know? But these rat studies are very useful as a baseline to understand how things can go. Like it's basically the basic of understanding, is this topic worth studying further?
Hmm. Okay.
Now, when I want to sell a diet or a product or an ingredient, I'm going to be updated with these and will say, there was a study done here
Hmm.
that showed. Now, as a normal person, I sound smart. You
Right.
think, okay, she's talking about studies and she must be knowing a thing or two.
Right.
But if you're aware of what's going on, this person has basically cherry picked. Cherry
Hmm.
pick means you pick the best parts
Yeah.
and you make your own stories around that study, which is not even, and that's exactly what the media does as well sometimes. More readings, more ratings, whatever. So
Yeah.
they'd say, oh, there's a new study that found this is good for you. And then another 2 days, you say, not good for you. So if you read a little more, don't just look at the headline.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there's nothing that's happening that's amazing because science always takes years,
Right.
you know. But that's why I said when you go back to your basics of eating more plants, moderate amounts of proteins, moderate amount of carbs, and there's no best ingredient. You can eat all sorts of vegetables, whatever suits you, whatever fits your budget, whatever fits your environment. You're pretty good,
Hmm.
you know, pretty good. And then you just need to make sure you are consistent with this
Yeah.
habits. And that's where diets fail most of the time.
Hmm.
Most of the time. Because there are certain people who are doing amazing on keto diet.
Right.
They've been on years on ketogenic diet because their personality, their lifestyle, everything suits them. There are people who've gone on ketogenic diet and got off it.
Yeah.
There are people who've had health issues because they've gone on a ketogenic diet. So,
Right.
as a person, for me, from a professional perspective, I'm not against any of the diets because it helps certain people at
Mm-hmm.
certain points in their life. But please don't fall into that, whole, uh, let's just say ketogenic diet simply because you found two other people,
Yeah.
who found success on it. It may not be the right one for you.
Right.
That's my point. So all
Hmm.
the diets work in the way that they reduce the total intake of food.
Correct. So, and on that note, Kunen has elaborated on his question, and I think it beautifully fits with what you are talking about at the moment. He says, is it true that what we eat directly affects the structure and function of our brain and ultimately our mood or emotion? And another way that I would probably, it might be the same or it could be two different things. I just want to understand how important is it to listen to your body
Yeah.
with what it's telling you, and also what Kunen has in.
Yeah.
You want me to
See,
leave it there?
yeah, just yeah. So what we eat directly affects the structure. See, again, these things are still in the early stages of research where there is to see if there is a structural and functional change happening in our brain. Actual physiological, structural, and functional change. But definitely, we can always say our mood, our emotion is definitely connected to the food we eat. Now, it can be both ways. Let me be clear here. Let's say I get a box of donut, all right? I saw it in the, whichever place, and I picked it up. And they gave me a great offer. They gave me 12 pieces for the price of whatever. I pick it, I bring it, I polish off the whole box in a day. of course, it's going to negatively affect me because I'm going to feel tired. I'm going to feel sleepy headed. It might just, I may not.
Hmm.
But again, let's take the same donut and I eat a donut as part of a family get together. It
Hmm.
was a happy occasion. That's going to give me happiness. So I guess you can't really say, did it make a dramatic change in my brain on a physiological level? Because this is it's like a gray area. How do I
Hmm.
know?
Yep.
Because we have heard of people who we know people, even ourselves, when we overeat. Let's say we go for a marriage, back home it's a feast, right? We always
Yep.
have a feast at weddings. Have you noticed where we eat fast? Because most of the time, by the time the feast is ready, we are all really hungry and famished, you know, because we
Yep.
move around a lot and and we eat so fast and they feed us loads, right? They come around and give you more of the pudding and they give you more of the rice, second helping, third helping. And if you notice, because we eat fast, because we eat large quantities, we are all feeling sleepy headed after about 20-25 minutes. And
Yep.
that's another thing I want to tell you, the 20-minute brain stomach connection. It takes 20 minutes for our stomach to give the message to our brain, dude, I'm full.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, before this 20 minutes, what happens is we gobble up everything fast.
Yep.
And if you watch your time the next time you do that, you will notice it is approximately around 20 minutes that you're going to say, oh my God, I feel so stuffed. I should
Hmm.
not have eaten. You will not say it in 10 minutes. You will not say it in 5 minutes. You will say it around 20 minutes.
So
That,
being
that
so being a slow eater is a blessing, is what I'm
it's
hearing
a
here.
blessing for people who want to lose weight. You
Hmm.
try to be. And I actually have people who are trying to gain weight. I need to tell them to eat faster.
Hmm.
Don't twiddle around with your food, because it helps them eat more. Because what happens with the slow eaters who want to gain weight, this is one habit. They would be twiddling with their food. It's not like they finish it off fast. So, yes, there is a connection in
Yep.
that sense of how our brain, and because we are a whole body, right? We're
Yep.
not separate, we're not
True.
on all over the place. Yeah.
True.
Is that
So,
clear? Did he get the
Kunan, let us know if that was clear for you, or if you'd like to go further into this, into the details of it. Give us a yes or type in some more. In the meantime, we have another question that has come in from Joe, who says, what's your suggestion on ways to help people increase appetites, as there are people who follow chronically hypercaloric diets and lose appetite? Great
Okay,
question.
so help increase the appetite as a people who followed. When you say hypercaloric diet, it seems a bit contradictory.
I think it should be
Ah, okay, okay.
lower. Yeah.
So they help increase the appetite as there are people who followed chronically hypercalorie. Hyper is more calorie diet, and then they've lost appetite.
I'm
I'm a
assuming
little
it's the.
confused.
I think he's used the word hyper in the wrong context. I think he meant low caloric diet and lose appetite. So chronically low caloric diet and lose
Hmm.
appetite. So
And
you
help increase the
basically,
appetite.
I guess people who go towards the eating disorders,
Hmm.
anorexia,
Hmm.
bulimia, people who just cut down on eating for the intention of losing weight, and then they even lose their appetite. Please
Yeah.
correct me if I am wrong, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, let us
Yes.
know if we got it right. But again, Joe, this is something, if we are talking about people who've done that, what are the ways? It's like I said, you'll have to look at the habits they have, starting from, are they, slow eaters? That's one thing. What are the foods
Hypo.
they're eating?
Hypo.
Sorry. Yeah.
He's correcting himself. It's hypo,
Oh,
not
okay.
hyper.
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So, and also, so what you could do is looking at how fast they're eating, also giving them um, high calorie foods. Like, okay, let's say for them, a smoothie as a snack might be a great option, because they get more calories as a drink. Because drinks are something which we tell people who want to lose weight and generally maintain their weight to watch out for. because you can blend up everything and drink a juice and get really loads of calories in there. So that's a good option that you can look at. Making them eat fast, looking at high calorie drinks and smoothies. uh, I guess, yeah. But you don't want to overdo the hyper palatable foods. Of course, you can put in an occasional ice cream, but I wouldn't really go that route. I would still manage their appetite with the better options, not necessary. Because I know the minute you want to put on weight, a lot of people's narrative changes. So eat all the ice creams you want, eat all the chocolates you want, because then you have something called as people who have their blood lipid profiles are really skewed up, but they don't look the part. They're not overweight, they don't look obese, they're really on the thinner side, but they're still unhealthy
Hmm.
internally, you know.
Right.
So, is that a good answer? Did you want me to discuss this more, Joe?
So, Joe, type in your comments so that we know where to take this conversation. Let me tell you a little that I've been on a bit of a transformation journey of my own. For those of you watching and those of you who know me, I haven't had chocolate since December, which is like this major achievement because I'm like chocolate is just my middle name, quite literally. It's my treat for anything and everything. So okay, so we have Kunen saying yes, thank you so much. It seems there is a connection between brain and gut, and we need to be mindful while choosing the foods.
Yes.
So I'm happy to know that it's that's what you were looking for in terms of answers. Palak says, "Oh my God," and I'm sure that "Oh my God" was because I haven't had chocolate since December. So, and you said "Oh my God" sometime back as well, Palak. What was that "Oh my God" for? Because when did you say that "Oh my God"? Yeah, you said "Oh my God" when we were talking about starting to listen to the kids. So I'm assuming that's why.
Yeah, yeah, she did.
Yeah, so I have not had chocolate since December. I've had a scoop of ice cream, and that too only because it was home delivered by my daughter. And the other thing is, I have cut down on my morning tea. Milk and sugar is literally out of my system, and it is beginning to show in the way I show up, the way my clothes show up on me now. So I'm seeing a lot of difference, but it's not something where I'm starving myself or,
Yeah.
it's just those little tweaks that have kind of, makes me feel like they've gone a long way. So what are some things possibly that people could do to be mindful? Um, yeah,
Again, the narrative changes from person to person. I'll put this in
right.
perspective because what you did, you were happy to do it and you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
consistent with it. Okay.
yes.
But again, there are like the same situation, it might be a different way of approaching it for somebody else. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you said, you just completely went cold turkey with chocolate,
That
right?
was
You just said, okay,
a
that's it. I'm not going
decision.
to have it. Yeah. Or you
And
just went cold
and
turkey with,
Yeah,
yeah.
and also something else was not this weekend, the weekend before, I was craving, like my body was like, I need ice cream. So quite literally hearing it out, I said, I'm not going to go into that binge where I go, okay, I'm deprived so much that I'm going to attack a whole tub. So I actually appreciated that this is what I require. I took a stop at the ice cream shop, bought myself a kid scoop, and relished it, every bit of it, not gulped it down or just
Yeah.
big chunks, but enjoyed it, like every bit of it. So again, brings me back to the mindfulness and what you were saying. Sorry.
No, no worries. And I love that about what you did because it fits your lifestyle, it fits your narrative, you know, the decisions you took to go out and have. It's not like literally our body wanted it, it's our mind, it's
Yeah.
our body is like a very physiological thing, it's a very science based thing but our mind, our emotions, like we're connecting so many things with food. Like for me, black
Food
coffee,
memories.
I'm very close attached to black coffee, simply
Hmm.
because the narrative is, whenever I used to go on vacations to my grandparents' house, the morning starts with black coffee, and I think that's where the love for black coffee starts. So, that's a part of who I am. Early mornings have to be black coffee. I'm a black coffee person rather than a tea person simply because of this. Not as a nutritionist thinking, oh, black coffee has so and so. it's, the caffeine and nothing of
Yep.
that sort. It's a very emotional connect. So
Yep.
what I want to tell here is, what are those little things that you can do has to fit in your narrative,
Hmm.
and it has to be a mindful decision that you do. For example, I had a client who forever struggled with weight loss, simply, and he knew that it was his beer, from Thursday evening, whole of Friday, and whole of Saturday, that was undoing the
Right.
entire effort. All those good things he did over the week was messing up. And we went on and on, because till he took a decision on his own way, "Oh, I need to find a middle ground with this." What he did was he joined so his narrative was, he joined a weight loss transformational, some kind of a boot camp kind of a thing, yeah.
Okay.
So they kind of supported him, but there was a prize attached for the winner at the end of it.
Hmm.
At the end of 6 weeks, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks program. He said, Lovely, I'm going to join that. I said, okay, great. I mean, something to motivate him and move him from point A to point B.
Right.
And I think it was the prize money that was his motivation to give up that booze. You know,
Right.
he completely went cold turkey, which is wow. And I was like, you could have done this, right? You had it in you, but the prize wasn't there, right? So his narrative completely changed. But of course, that was a short term narrative,
Hmm.
because he's still back on it now. So, you know, see,
Yeah.
my point is, everybody has a story to tell, and you need to find. So, what are the good things that you can do? Is, like I said, sitting here, it's easy for me to give you some tips, but it may not help you, because it may or it may not.
Yeah.
But one thing I can tell you is, focus more on to buying whole foods, and find ways to make sure you're having it on your plate. Now, if buying it and having it on your plate requires some thought process in the middle of it, where you need to get help to cut and chop the vegetables because you're busy, you need help to have someone to cook it for you, you need to maybe make, you don't need all that, but you are choosing one day in the week where it's an off day, and you're keeping aside 3 to 4 hours to just meal prep for the whole
Hmm.
week.
Hmm.
Do that. Any action that will help you to eat more foods, like whole foods,
Yep.
and reduce your intake of hyper palatable foods. you know
Yeah.
Anything you can do, that's going to really help you in the big picture, because you
True.
don't want to say, "Oh, I ate one ice cream, I'm a bad kid," or, "I messed up everything, I'm not going to follow this diet, doesn't work." You don't want to just throw up the towel on that level, because it's not your one ice cream that's going to give you the effect or the result. Yeah.
True. So I love how beautifully we have again come a full circle to the why,
Yes.
right? And the why is always hidden in every part of this conversation, to be honest. And what I've also realized is, when you know why you're doing what you're doing, in terms of whether it is stopping to eat or to eat, because for some of us, the weight gain could also be a cry for attention. With kids, when a child is overweight, and the parent is constantly dotting over the child, and otherwise is busy, this could be a cry for attention psychologically. With someone who's losing weight dramatically, and that's the only time when family is paying attention to them, saying, "Oh, you're losing weight, are you okay?" Otherwise they're invisible. That again creates a story. So understanding to have the right Nutrisense is so important in understanding your why. Getting goosebumps as I say this, because as a coach, I deal with a lot of people who come to me with
Sure.
food and stuff like that, and when you look deeper into the layers of their why, there are these questions about either wanting to become larger so that they are visible to people, so that they show up, or to just shrink and be invisible because they've faced so many hurdles. So it's important to understand your connect with food
True.
and how you can make the right sense out of it. So thank you.
No problem. I
And
hope there is some takeaway out of all this
oh
conversation.
gosh, this was
Yeah, okay,
fabulous.
amazing. Because
So
I think I want all of you to start that conversation inside yourselves, and not just go and dive into the dark hole of the social media or internet. Take a step back, rethink what you know, because we do know the basics. We do know vegetables, we do know fruits, we do know, chicken, fish, but then we nitpick and, we mess up the whole thing. We don't need to do that.
that's so important. And again, it's so important to know your why. It's so important to understand your
How you're going to do
relationship
it.
with food. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
your relationship with food. I will share in how you can connect with Lovely and the amazing work that she does. How to reach me as well. Thank you guys for staying in right up until the end.
No,
This
it's
was
quite a long
probably
time.
it was probably the longest session we've had and the most nutritious at every level. So
Thank
thank you,
you.
Lovely, for your time and
Thank
for
you all.
everyone
Thank you,
else.
Rukia, for having me on board.
Thank you. Pleasure was all mine. Thanks. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody, and see you on the next conversation. And for those of you who've been here long, episode 50, we did it. And very soon, I have a surprise guest on incoming episodes. So do tune in because each one of my guests is an absolute gem. Thank you once again, and see you later.